What's up, guys? I'm back with another installment of learning Cubase for electronic dance music production. And you can see we just have a basic project here. Let's go ahead and give it a listen real quick and see where we're at. Alright, so we just have two measures of drums started, and I realized after I took a break, I came back and this hat sounds terrible. So what we're going to do is just clean this project up a little bit. I'm going to take this kick part out. We're going to bring this back to the 0 point. We're going to change the loop back to 1. Hit save on that, and whoops, hit save. And let's get another hat sound. Now, I've had my MIDI keyboard plugged in now, and I'm hitting the notes and nothing's happening. And I don't know if you can hear this, but my MIDI controller is not actually sending any notes into Cubase right now. And the reason is I had to look around for a second to figure it out, is because in the last example, we set the MIDI input here to come from Groove Agent MIDI out. So in order to send notes, there's either I gotta go back in here to Groove Agent and play around here. Now you can see this little blue bar here is indicating that we're getting sound coming in from Groove Agent, and that's going to the MIDI track. And so this is actually firing off a C1 event for the kick, snare, percussion, clap. This hi-hat close sound, it's not very good, and you can see it's because we loaded something in here. And we can try to replace the sample again, and I can look for more samples. But what I want to do is I'm just going to reload the default electro kit here. So I'm going to go in here. I'm just going to pick I'm going to make sure I know where this is. The electro kit, it should be down here, and it is electro kit 01. I'm just going to switch here to the electro pop kit, and then back to the electro kit, and just click anywhere, and now we're back to the original hi-hat sound. Now we'll just go ahead and use this for right now. We may change it later, but we're back to something that sounds more like a hi-hat. Now the volume for this hi-hat is really quiet, so if you notice, each of these sounds in Groove Agent has its own little mixer inside of here. So I'm going to crank this up so we get a little bit louder sound. Let's give this a listen now, and then as it plays, we can listen to it and kind of mix it. Alright, so there you go. We're back to sounding a little bit better now. And if I click on this edit now, we got two notes, and I'm going to actually delete that second note. You can see I just use the selection tool here, grab the note, and you notice it's these dark gray bars line up with the black keys, and the medium gray, I guess, line up the white keys. So this is the piano roll, and this piano roll here tells you that we're sending, and this is C1, so we're sending, this is an F sharp 1. And if you, as a review, go back here, so it's F sharp 1, we're sending that hi-hat. So working with a drum VST against a piano roll is a little bit confusing, and you can see also I have the editor for the MIDI information down here. If I select two of these, you're getting like dark ones and light ones. And this is kind of a cool feature. You can select your whole entire pattern here, and if I switch back and forth, you can see now Cubase knows that I'm now editing the snare part. If I select this, it's going to fire that note, and now Cubase knows that I'm working with the kick part. So it's maybe seems a little bit upside down here, because the kick is actually a lower note, and then the snare is a higher note, and so this is kind of upside down from what we have over here. But if we wanted to, we could drag this around like this. Now it matches up. So hopefully that makes sense. There's some more tools you can use in the editor. This thing's kind of crazy how fast it moves. And you can also hold the shift key and drag the scroll wheel. So notice if I use the selection tool and I pick all those kick drums, you can stretch those out, and it's happening in all the windows at the same time. It's kind of cool. But you notice like this one is a little bit longer than this one. There's a function called quantize length, and I think it's in the MIDI part here. I have trouble remembering where that's at. Maybe it's in the quantize thing. Oh, here it is. Yeah, quantize length. Right, so you just click on that button, and now they're all quarter notes. So I don't know if you know about music, but this is 4/4 time. I think it shows on the interface somewhere. The time signature. We'll get into tempo tracks and time signature tracks maybe in a future episode, but 4/4 time means 4 beats per measure, and a quarter note gets 1 beat. So this is a quarter of the measure. That's why they call it a quarter note. All right, so we got, go ahead and save again. So I'm obsessive about saving. So this is a good way to visualize your tracks and work on it by just, you can select multiple parts at once, and you can click between it, move around. And once you're done, you can select nothing or no events here and go back to just single editing each part. We can give that a listen again. So we have a decent beat. It's nothing to write home about yet. So for the next part of this, what I want to do is actually add some more interest to these drums. And so usually what I try to do is find either some sound that's built into here. We got a ride. We have more percussions. I mean, this perk and this perk sound almost exactly the same. I don't know. Maybe that's how electro music is, but I don't really like that sound. Don't like that sound. So there's half of the sounds on here I don't like, and so it takes, unfortunately, it's super time consuming to kind of research different sounds, and that's why everybody buys sound packs all over the place. There's actually, this is another part about Groove Agent that makes a lot of people excited, is that you can load 16 sounds, but then there's actually 8 times 16, because you can use any one of these, and you can see this is E-2, so you can load this up with more stuff. And in order to do that, you'd have to go into the sample, and I don't know why they don't show it in here as a way to load it. I think you'd have to actually get the pro version to access all of this. So the SE version is pretty crippled. Groove Agent 5, I guess, or the latest version, has a lot more you can do with it. In Cubase 10, they've added a lot more features to that newer version, but they want you to upgrade. And the sound packs, like, you can't get at samples. So we are working with kind of a limited palette of sounds at the moment. But that sound might be kind of cool. So just as a review, we can go ahead and add this D sharp 1, and we have notice that this actually isn't sending MIDI information again. It is to the hat track. If I click on that, now you can see it's sending. So you have to really kind of set up yourself for knowing, like, it's easy to get stuck in a rut where it's like there's technical glitch and you can't figure out why your triggers aren't working and stuff like that. So it's really helpful to follow this sort of process. And I usually duplicate tracks when I want to make a new one, because it has all the same settings as what I was hoping for. Now I'm going to actually reverse this again: kick, and then snare, and then hat, and then another track here. I'm going to actually make this into it'll just say perk, because we'll match that up. Now I'm going to delete this part. So there's a couple ways you can do that. I'm just going to move this over to the side real quick. So you can either select this and delete it, and then draw in a new one. I'm right clicking on the mouse, and then I can draw in a new part, and it'll automatically be named perk. Let me undo that. You can see I can also, with the selection tool, I can select this and select all of these guys and delete that. Now I have an empty part, but it still says hat. So how do you change that? That's up here. I don't know why they don't just let you double click or triple click or right click something and to rename this part right here, but you have to actually do it up here. So you can say perk. So that's another way you can get a new part. And the last way is we'll go ahead and use my MIDI instrument instead of this interface. So I'll close this. I know I need a D sharp 1, right? And so I'm going to actually trigger this from my MIDI keyboard. So I'm going to select the input of the impulse, and now I'm hitting D sharp here, and what we can do is just hit record. Okay, so here's what happened here. So I just hit that note a couple times, and you can see here's the part that I just recorded. Now you notice there's a big area here of red, and you might be wondering what that is. When you open up the editor, it's not immediately obvious what you're looking at. So let me show you. There's this controller data lane down here, and in here, if you hold down on this arrow, you notice that there's 2 asterisks. One is on velocity, one's on aftertouch. So on the velocity scale, you can make it quieter or louder, and Cubase is going to continually play that note over and over so you can hear how loud it is. So you can control the volume of it through the velocity. And usually for most electronic music, you want everything, pretty much firing at maximum volume. Now the exception to that, there's certain samplers and synths that make it like a slightly different sound for each time it's triggered for the different velocities. So sometimes you can kind of play with it, but in this case, I usually just try to get all the same volume, and then I mix the volume. Now you notice I'm actually using the line tool here. I can make this quieter as it goes. I can make it louder, and so on. So there's all kinds of different ways you can work with the note itself and the velocity in here, or you can just draw in here wherever you want. So you can use all these, a lot of these tools to edit the velocity of the note as well as the note. So it's pretty powerful. I'm going to make this a quarter note, make that a quarter note, make that, this is actually like a whole note dotted. So it's a dotted whole note. If you want to go back to your music theory, same with this one. We'll make this exactly the same length. So the only reason I really care about the note lengths is for a couple reasons. One is just it makes it appear in a certain way in here, makes it more recognizable what it is. The second thing is that if you ever go to the score and you open the score editor, it'll actually make those the proper notes of what they are. And actually that's a little bit strange. It's actually not a whole note because these are beats. This is not a full measure here. So, but if you have in some note length like that, it'll kind of screw up the score. So back to this little vertical bar here. What is that? So that is the other controller data that I recorded. So aftertouch is pressing harder down on the keyboard. So there's certain things that you can, certain synths where you can send the aftertouch as a modulator. You can send, this obviously doesn't have any impact on groove agent instruments, but when you have a really cool virtual synthesizer like Retrolog or something that comes with Cubase or maybe Massive in Native Instruments, you can send the aftertouch modulator. So it's just another area where you can draw, and this is like a vector curve, if you will, or points on the grid. So you can edit this as well. You can, same thing, you can draw automation in your aftertouch channel. But in this case, this drum sound, we don't need any aftertouch data. So if you notice, I'm just going to delete that aftertouch. It's gone now. We go back to velocity. This is the typical window that you want to have open when you're editing. You want to see the velocity and the notes when they're entering on the screen. So now my part looks better. Go ahead and hit save on that again, and we're back to working on our track. We got our workflow going.